welcome to episode 20 of the Make Things Better podcast. Today I'm joined by our head of creative, Allan Noy, and we're going to have a bit of a chat about networking and about the digital media conference. So welcome on, Allan. How are you doing today?
I am good. It is hot in Sheffield. It has been hot the past few days. It's like living in Australia here. Well, not quite. Living in Australia if it was slightly cooler and not Australia.
I actually heard it's like hotter here than Australia right now. Like quite a lot hotter.
Is it?
Yeah.
Well, they're having their winter, so yeah.
It just kind of makes sense.
That would make sense.
Yeah, very good point. Let's talk a bit about this event that you went to recently. Do you want to start by telling us what it was and how was it?
Yes, I want to do also an apology to the audience because my mind is a bit frazzled. There was so much to do and so much things to do, and I'd like to thank the people at the conference for putting all that on. It was definitely influential. So I went as a sort of a bit more of a fact-finding mission on my part because I wanted to expand Hive's audience and I wanted to understand what children are watching, children want from TV and media, what are the pitfalls, that type of stuff. And I think what this conference provided was the platform to be able to talk to the people about these things and about these interesting subjects and to get their insights on how they're coping with the things, like how they're figuring out funding and how they're figuring out how to attract kids who are maybe more neurodiverse than their normal audience. And I think was the crux of the conference, was meeting people, understanding people. There was a lot of pitching as well that was happening, and that was interesting. That was also another learning factor of how to pitch to sort of the bigger companies and what they find attractive in a particular thing, which is useful from a business sense. Because next week I'll be pitching for another job anyway, so that was definitely a bonus add-on. But yeah, it was all interesting, and I'm afraid it was just like so much good stuff. And they also had change makers in, so these are kids that are change the world or are doing some great things in their life. So we've had that. I've forgotten the name. I think it's Anwar from Britain's Got Talent. He's kind of the kid that talks about conservation and protecting our planet, and then we had some other people for everything from TikTok to everything, and it was just interesting to see how out of touch I was for most of it, and how I really need to gain better knowledge of what's happening to Gen A, which is a term I've just learned over that conference, which is the generation after Gen Z.
That's new to me.
Gen A are the ones that be growing up with the metaverse being there all the time. So they would have grown up with that idea of Fortnite or Roblox from the start, and then seen where that develops. And I mean, there's a lot of hubbub about whether Web 3.0 and metaverse and how old people are going, I don't know if this is going to work. But it turns out it doesn't matter, because if it's the future and the kids are adopting it already, it doesn't really matter on that front. But overall, the conference was mainly about getting as many Instagram contacts as you can. It was almost Pokemon Go, but you do meet a lot of interesting people there, and I think it was talking to writers, animators. I was talking to educators, researchers, a lot of them, producers, and the big cheeses of the commissioners for the big channels, like from CBBC, CITV, and all those type of things. And that was great, just finding out all that insight. And then there was a lot of talk about kids coming out of the pandemic, and I think that was a big subject for them. Is we've just had that pandemic, and these kids have been lost in a sort of a way, and the content that people are looking at inclusion and mindfulness and looking after yourself, and not more of those sort of mental health life skills that people should be having not just children, but adults as well. They could learn a lot from that type of stuff. But
Yeah.
helping them get back on their feet and getting socialized again and talking to people, and because they have lost years now. They've lost years, so I think that was another big subject of that.
Yeah. So, what would you say like you learned from this conference then?
The big one, I've learned that I am terrible at networking. I don't know whether that's I was always terrible at networking or whether that was because pandemic absolutely destroyed my small talk. Because I couldn't think of anything to talk about half the time. What did you do? I was in my house. There wasn't much to do. I've talked to the same people for the past like 2 years. So yeah, it was really good getting out, and I think just taking that first step was the most scariest. Like just going up to someone and going hello, and doing that was scary. Though you do find out that everyone else is pretty much in the same boat. A lot of people I was talking to, it's like, yeah, I'm really bad at this sort of networking and schmoozing my way. Like a lot of people find it natural to do, but I don't. It's just, I think the one person suggested is like always look for people that sort of have open groups, so they're like standing outwards. They're looking for other people to join that group. Don't bother joining groups that are sort of already in a huddle or together. That was the tip I got, which was a pretty good tip. And then digital business cards. I had not used a digital business card in a long time.
What's that? Is that like on LinkedIn?
Yeah, so LinkedIn have a sort of QR code now. Like now, since the pandemic, everyone's used to scanning a QR code. So you can just pull up a QR code and let the other person scan it on their phone, and it pulls it up on their phone. There's also I think it's an app called Hi Hello, which lets you have a sort of, you can put all your details in, and that also just has a QR code, and you scan it, and they get the full whack. They like your face, your LinkedIn, your Instagram, your Facebook, your website, everything in one job lot, and they can do that with what they will.
Yeah, networking is changing fast. Last time I went to like a networking event, that whole LinkedIn like barcode thing was new to me, and I got chatting to some people, and they were saying that like at some event you could literally just turn Bluetooth on, go up to someone near you, and if they had like Bluetooth in this app as well, it would just like automatically connect you both. And that is so creepy because like imagine if you went up to like someone who you just like really wanted to get to know, who was like maybe like a bit famous or something, like you could, just go connect with them so quickly, but you'd literally be like creeping up to them, possibly without even talking to them at all, and then connecting online.
I think you definitely still have to ask. I mean, I'm still asking,
Oh, for sure.
can I add you? Yeah, but yeah, that sounds way too creepy. That like you already feel a bit weird going up to random people and almost like collecting them like Pokemon or like Pokemon cards. Like, yeah, I've got you. But yeah, I think the other piece of advice I was always given was just make friends and just talk to people. I don't try to sell anything. Just find out more about them and what they do, and things just happen naturally. Like I didn't think I'm quite introverted. Well, less extroverted than most people, and so it takes a lot of energy for me to. And I run out of energy really quickly once so I do need like recharge time. So I advise anyone that's a little low on the extroversion to do these in short sporadic runs, because you will soon drain your battery in a few hours. So go out there, talk to as many people as you can, make friends, and then maybe step back a bit, just recharge yourself, and then maybe you can step back to your hotel room or wherever you're staying and just sort of recharge and then back out.
Yeah. How did you find this one, like in terms of your energy levels and everything? Do you feel like it did take some of your energy away from you this week?
Yes, I think I'm sapped. Like, I'm quite sapped, and like talking to so many different people. I was like, yeah, it was fun. I definitely like. Obviously, it was. Don't get me wrong. It is fun. It's not a job. I'm like, it's crazy to think. It's like, oh, networking. You got to do the networking, find out these people. But like, it is also very interesting to just meet people
Yeah.
and learn about what they do. So, like, you meet people from Barcelona, for example, an educator in Barcelona talking about one particular thing, or someone who's created like a music program for neurodivergent people. That's interesting stuff. It was really nice to be able to do all those things. But yeah, if you're a bit, as I said, more on the introvert side of the extroversion scale, um, it does drain you. I admire people who just get a lot of energy from meeting people. But yeah, just step to the side a bit. Maybe set yourself a little space, pop to a coffee shop and have a drink by yourself, and then jump back in. Um, and I assure you, and you always been told like there are other people that are exactly the same boat as you. Like,
Yeah.
um, it's like they're just as like anxious about all this talking to other people and making new friends and trying to find something to talk about and that type of stuff. But yeah, it is tough, and I think it's just practice. I think, and especially after this pandemic, when most people all they've been talking to are the people on their screens, which is a lot easier because you're in your sort of comfort zone around here. It's your house. You can talk like for days because it doesn't matter. You're in your own room. You can turn the chat off. You can go on mute. There's a lot of safety nets on that type of thing. Whereas if you're in face to face, there is no like you're not sat in your living room, and you haven't got the chance to just go. I'll just mute myself or turn the camera off while I walk away and I come back to this conversation. You can't do that. And I think that's another thing. I think a lot of people come out of um, lockdowns and pandemics that they start to have to interact with people, and I think people are just finding it hard to adjust with small talk, just talking to people and going, I've run out of things to say, mate. Not much has happened over my life in the last 2 years.
How did you find it then? Like actually going up and chatting to people. Like how was that experience in the end?
I think you just needed a little bit of like courage and kick up the bum. I think when it comes to that, but just saying hello, hi, always good to start a conversation. I found like if you ever remember doing those, if you did French or Spanish or foreign language lessons when you were a kid, um, those things that they teach you, like hello, how are you, how is the world today, how is it, how are you finding it, and the fact that like I think what's advantageous is like if you got something to talk about that's quite common, like a conference generally does. Like you could talk about the next talk or what were you going to see or what you're looking forward to. That acts as a nice little icebreaker as opposed to um, anything else. I mean, like coming out of the blue, showing genuine interest. That's always good. I always find sometimes I struggle to show genuine interest on some stuff. Like, especially a lot more of the techie stuff. So it's really hard to do some of the same stuff in a tech. I'm not really interested in talking about JavaScript, so I can't really just come up to you. It's like, what do you think of Next.js? Is that a great thing? And you're like, yeah, that's about as I only know the title. I don't know what it is, what it does, or anything. But maybe you can explain it to me. But yeah, that's that's the world.
Yeah, yeah. And you had some good like conversations though this time around.
Yes, there was. Oh, just trying to remember. I think even the first day when I was there, it was just talking to people who, uh, you know, did animations about inclusion, or even get recommendations on like, new things to check out, or uh, I think one thing I learned, someone told me, is like neurodivergent tend to prefer cool colors in their apps, and I was like, that is a very good piece of information considering some of the work Hive does.
Yeah,
Uh, and that's what the types of nuggets I was looking for, because like obviously we are not in this market at the moment, and it was kind of we're finding out whether maybe we could consider looking at doing apps for children, learning education apps, that type of stuff. It could be a market, could be something, and that was the whole intention of going out there. So I think I was lucky because I wasn't trying to sell anything to a producer, or I wasn't have a show behind my back that I needed to push. That I could just ask questions about everything, and being like a complete beginner, give me sort of full right to be able to ask the really dumb questions, like, so what is that, or what are these regulations, or how do you do that? And I think that's probably the other tip I'd give for anyone that was networking. It would be just enter a conversation like with an empty cup. Let them fill your cup up with knowledge. You just walk in neutral, ask the beginner questions. Just ask the questions, and people are happy to help out most of the time. Most of the time, I remember. But then you don't want to be around those grumpy people who don't want to help you out. So no loss to you. Just being doing that, and I think that's the best way to approach these things.
Yeah. So in a way, it's like approaching these networking events with the attitude of, I'm not here to like necessarily get anything from anyone, but if I could learn something, maybe that'd be really, really great. Like I'm not after selling anything. I just want to learn from other people, and I think there's an opportunity there to just be really interested and inquisitive, and I personally love meeting new people, and I think with that kind of event, especially if it's something that you want to get into in the future, like there's just a lot of opportunity there to learn from people who have a few more skills in something that you're interested in. So yeah.
Yeah, and plus it just making those connections in the long run, I think it's just helpful. I know a lot of the connections I made, especially in the education sectors, and especially with a lot of the writers and some of the animators and a couple of composers every so often. I know for a fact that in the future we will come up with an app that requires I don't know, some music, and I have those people at hand, or a story to write. I have those people at hand, like, or there's some research on education that may be useful for a particular project, or just to have a fresh set of eyes on a particular project. That's all those things are just invaluable, and making connections again is invaluable. Plus, a massive news story came out over the last couple of days that everyone managed to talk about. So there was another start to a conversation.
I don't know what you're on about. What news story?
That they're releasing another No.
We probably shouldn't talk about politics on this podcast too much, but yeah, I guess that does make it a lot easier to have a conversation if you've got breaking news like that. So yeah. Anyway, do you want to should we wrap this up then? If you were to provide like one tip on networking from your experience, obviously you've said yourself like you're not an expert on this, but just from your experience, what would that be to anyone who's a bit apprehensive about going to an event?
There are more people in the same boat as you than you realize. There's definitely a lot more people are just as anxious as you and are just as uncomfortable as talking to other people. So try and be their friends. Try and help them out. And maybe in the long run they'll help you out. Like, it's always good to just find some people that may be a bit apprehensive and just have a chat with them. And then you've got a buddy. Then you've got two people and you feel a little better about going for. And I think that it's just that. It's just jumping in, leap of faith style, and getting started. And then you'll find that it's pretty, like, people like to be friends and like to be nice to each other. It's not as, what's the worst that could happen? And the more you do it, the better you get at it, is essentially what we got.
Yeah. I'm terrible at this kind of thing, like networking. Well, I don't know if terrible is the right word. I think really actually you should maybe go into this without even any judgment of yourself of like, I'm good, I'm bad at networking. It's just like, just having a really open mind,
Yeah. The empty cup, which I've stolen from Bruce Lee, but it's the empty cup. You just walk in with an empty cup. If you walk in with preconceptions and a full cup, you're not going to get anything out of it. Like, you're not going to fill it with new knowledge, you're not going to fill it with new friends, you're not going to fill it with anything. So just walk in with an empty cup and be that beginner and just listen. I think someone told me the best thing you can do is ask questions and just listen, actively listen to someone. People like being listened to. People like talking about themselves. So just asking those questions and letting them do the chat for you is a lot easier.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. Allan, I don't think I asked you this last time we had a podcast it was over a year ago now, that first ever episode. bit longer than this one. I think that one was like an hour and 20 or something. But anyway, so
it was the premiere.
Premiere. This is the big exclusive 20th episode as well, so it's a bit of a milestone. But yeah, anyway, so what can people do to make things better?
Oh, I have sat through a lot of the other podcasts, and they've all said very, very similar things. And so I'm going to try and think of something that's a little different from what has been said before, because those are all good things, and that was definitely my go-to. But I think what could make things better is reflecting on what we have done and then acting on that. I think we need to sometimes stop and reflect on what we're doing to the world or what we're doing to each other, and or even just yourself, and take that time to reflect and then move forward and learn from those reflections. That's probably your best bet at all times, and that way you always check in with yourself and your world around you.
In a practical sense, how would you recommend someone goes about doing that?
In a practical sense, just sit down in a nice quiet space, and then just take that space. It's almost like a mindful space for yourself. Take that space and time, slow the world down for a bit. It can be on your bus commute into work, it can be your walk to work, it can be your cycle ride, something where you're not, handling heavy machinery or anything, or doing anything. Or it can even just be sat in a cafe with a coffee and just sit there for just 5-10 minutes and just reflect on what your life has been, and just that time to check in with yourself for a bit. I think that's ultimately important, not only for the good of everything else, because it helps you understand maybe I hurt that person's feelings when I did that, or maybe I was a bit rude about that, and it just helps you check in with yourself and your body and keep you present. It's like a mindful state, I guess. And I guess this is just old stuff that everyone knows but never does. So practically, just take 5-10 minutes every day. Could just be listening to your favorite song, dancing away, or anything. Just take that time to sort of sit there and reflect just a little bit.
Nice. I love that. Okay, that's great advice. So I think that concludes today's episode. Thanks so much for coming on, Alan. Really appreciate your time. Thanks to everyone watching or listening. Hope you have enjoyed today's episode, and I hope you have an amazing rest of your day.